Good evening, everyone, and welcome here to the Flatout Racing Network's coverage of race number 3, season 61 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series, as we are here at the high banks of Talladega Super Speedway. We've run one race here at Talladega. We ran a race last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Drivers got the opportunity to kind of get used to the ins and outs of the new Aero 88 mod here for this season. Now we'll see what they've been able to learn and what they'll be able to apply here today. So far, two very interesting races. It's come down in some cases to survival, but two drivers kind of stood out in the closing stages of both of those races and closed out the deal. Greg Palmer 2 weeks ago winning right here in the season opener. Last week, Dante Ricky taking the checkered flag at BSR. We've obviously heard from Dante last week. He is a part-time driver, but with it being very early on in the season as well, can definitely tell you there was a lot of moving and shaking in the point standings. Chunks gained, chunks lost, and it really has made the current playoff situation, with still a number of races left to go, but it has made it very, very interesting coming into this evening. We'll give you your starting lineup here in just a moment, but you can see the Reese's number 9 of Jessica Shelton gets the pole position via the random qualifying draw, and Robbie Nisus will make up the outside of the front row for this one. Got a lot of drivers that are up there in the point standings starting towards the rear of the field. Got a lot of drivers that have struggled in the first two races of the season starting up towards the front. But in terms of super speedway racing, it seems nowhere is safe. The dreaded big one can strike anywhere at any time. We'll see if we see one or a few big ones here this evening. One thing that a number of these drivers have not done, I think about 3 or 4 drivers did it last week prior to a caution, but they've yet this season to make a green flag pit stop. As we've got the command to fire them up, and they're going to roll off of pit road here. 36 strong here this evening for this 66 lapper.
But it will, probably get up to about 220, so just keep an eye on that.
Jessica Shelton going to be on the front row, alongside the 54 of Robbie Nisus. Row 2, former champion Doug Woolley, alongside another former champion, Brian Schilling. Row 3 finds Brian Rawson and Mark Paglia. Row 4 is going to be Kelly Causey, alongside of Tim Nofsker. Bobby Farrell, he'll share the remaining row of the top 10 with the 33 of Michael Harris, making his second start on the season. Actually, correction, his first start on the season. Harris was one of the drivers that failed to qualify last week. Bernie Mobbs, he'll be back in row 6 with Jim Glaude. Doug Cady will be with Terry Bombard in row 7. Row 8 will be the defending champion, Richard Martin, and he shares it with Milt Surratt. Row 9, Doug Hulick and Craig Hagley. And the top 20 will be completed by Jeremy Jeffries and John Godfrey. Jerm Lewis, he'll start back in the 21st position. Points leader Joe DeSpirito will start this race 22nd. 23rd, going to be Grant Wesley, Bob Seminara. 24th, and Donnie Garrett will complete the top 25. Second in points is JT Mayhew. He'll roll off the grid from 26th. Greg Palmer in 27th. 28th place will be Josh Metallic. 29th, Wiley Coate, and Rodney Sullins will complete the top 30. Cy Jones, he'll be back in row 16 alongside of Chris Emery. Row 17, Chuck McClure deep in the field alongside of Alan Martin. And Glenn Harris, Bob Dixon will make up the final row of tonight's 36-car field. Should be an interesting one here this evening. As mentioned 2 weeks ago, these drivers got to go to school on the ins and outs, the hitboxes, the different variables that come with the Aero 88 cars here at Talladega. Different experience with Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway last week. Entirely different racetrack, entirely different way that the lines move, the momentum moves. But if they can cast their memories back to 2 weeks ago, we'll see if they can apply what they experimented on during the course of that one. As the green flag is out, and we are racing here at Talladega Superspeedway. Well, it sounds like a sail, but the 999 1-2 down the back straightaway. Jessica Shelton with Doug Woolley tucked up in front of Kelly Causey and Bobby Farrell. Bernie Mobbs, new colors there. The Citgo Dodge in the 5th position. And then 3 wide behind him, now settled out to double wide. It was, I believe that was Mark Paglia and Brian Schilling who were side by side. Woo, Shelton up the track. Looks like maybe she just wanted that lap led, and now she's going to jump up to the outside line and fade to the rear of the field. Been a tough start to the season for Jessica Shelton. 32nd in overall points after the first 2 races coming into this one, so got the bonus point for a lap led. Now trying to get out of Dodge, get into a safe spot, at least here in the early going. It's side by side for the lead between Kelly Causey and Doug Woolley. Causey has Bobby Farrell as his wingman. Top side, it's Brian Schilling offering the drafting help to the 99. Looks like both of our drivers from the front row have faded to the back. Robbie Nices has done the same. Doug Woolley going to get that lap led bonus point. Brian Schilling trying to clear into 2nd place. He might be clear, but it's hard to tell there coming off of 2, especially when the 00 gets a little bit of a run there on that inside line. Now should be clear down the back stretch. Tim Nofsker is going to clear as well into 3rd. And into the 4th position is going to go Terry Bombard. Well, he didn't quite clear Kelly Causey, as he's got some help there by Milt Surratt in the 80. 3 wide further back. That appeared to potentially be, I think that was maybe Rodney Sullins. Rodney Sullins or Wiley Coat up there on the top side, trying to make something happen. No, that's the Folgers car. That would be Chuck McClure. Top 4 have gotten themselves clear on that outside line. And more of them are going to clear on that inside line there. Surratt, Jeremy Jeffries, Mark Paglia looks to do the same. Well, we got a moment. Let's give you your point standings coming into this one. Remember, the top 12 in overall standings at the end of the regular season will be locked into the playoffs. Oh, Jeremy Jeffries, they stacked up there in the tri-oval. Got one up into the wall. Jeffries is going to save it. I think it was Paglia brushed the wall. They all started stacking up from about the 5th position on back. Jeremy Jeffries got the bump from behind exiting the tri-oval. Maybe it was Craig Hagley that might have tapped him. But they all got through that unscathed. Tremendous save by Jeremy Jeffries. I don't know how he kept that thing from spinning out. But he is going to potentially lose the pack here. We'll have to see if he can catch back up. I have been told that these Aero 88 cars seem to be able to draft up a lot better than the trucks did in the previous seasons. So we'll see if Jeremy Jeffries can get back up here with the lead pack. And we got a wreck at the back. Chuck McClure is around at the start-finish line, and the caution is out. I believe the leaders did not take the yellow, so I don't know if they're actually going to be racing back here to the start-finish line or not, or if they're going to whoop for the pace car right here. Looks like they're waiting for the pace car here on the back straightaway. Frozen field, even if they were racing back, they would hold their positioning. But caution is going to be out for the first time here this evening on lap number 5 officially. As Doug Woolley waiting for the pace car to come around and pick him up. Pace car is still all the way back here, just now going into turn 3. So Woolley's going to have to whoa up quite a bit. Doesn't want to risk coming to pit road and the pass car pacing him. It would give him a black flag for that. He also can't stop on the racetrack either. Now, hopefully he gets that thing woed down in time before they get to pit road entry. Let's go back. And before we take a look at what brought the caution out, this is a big break for Jeremy Jeffries, because he will now stay in touch with the lead pack. But let's take a look at what happened to him and the save he was able to make. This is not easy at all when you get bumped through the exit of the tri-oval. Watch this. See right there, Terry Bombard stacks up Milt Surratt into Jeremy Jeffries, into Craig Hagley. Everybody checking up. That little contact from Hagley into the back of Jeremy Jeffries gets him loose. He's already turning the wheel to the left, so when he gets that bump, it turns him more left, propels him down in the direction of the apron. But that was an incredible save there by Jeremy Jeffries, because more often than not, you're going to be turning left and maybe spinning out, or you're going to overcorrect it back up into the field. I mean, right there, clipping that grass, you're not very much in control of the car at that point. When he got onto the asphalt, then it might be a little bit easier to gather it up. But when you're on the grass, there's no grip for your tires, and you just got to hope that that thing is going to be pointed in the right direction after you're done in the grass and finally get to the grip of the pavement. Let's take a look and see what happened with Chuck McClure. We saw him up on the third lane trying to make moves, and looks like it's going to be the tri-oval again. And a little checkup right there. He checked up for Richard Martin. Gets a bump from behind by Donnie Garrett. And, oh, he just barely gets the 0-5 of Alan Martin. Martin getting sandwiched into the outside wall there. Not bad. Not sure how bad the damage is going to be for him. Get another camera angle of it. Chuck McClure, remember, started deep in the field in the 33rd spot. He was up to 17th at the time. Again, still drivers trying to get used to these hitboxes. It may look like to them that they're not on somebody's back bumper, not going to make contact, and then suddenly the hitbox engages and you see the end result. The tri-oval has caused a couple of issues here in the early going, including leading us to our first yellow flag of the night. Pit road open. And here comes everybody. Alan Martin getting the worst of that wreck when he got sandwiched up between McClure and the outside wall. Looks like a lap ago he brought his car down pit road and made the left-hand turn to the garage area. Alan Martin's going to finish 35th here this evening, as Terry Bombard and Robbie Nisus are going to stay out. We'll see if they come to pit road here onto this next lap of caution, or if Bombard's going to elect to keep the track position. Tim Knopfsker wins the battle off pit road, immediately throws in the clutch before he gets up onto the banking of turn 1. We had 36 drivers slated to take the green flag here in this one. Looks like we, as documented, have the DNF for Alan Martin, and it looks like the 33 of Michael Harris never took the green flag. So 34 of our original 35 drivers that started this race are still running, still on the lead lap at this point in time. All right, now that we got the opportunity here, under caution, we'll give you what your point standings look like coming into this third race of the season. Joe DeSpirito, your current overall points leader after back-to-back second-place finishes to start out the season. JT Mayhew, after his podium last week, brings it home 7 points back, tied for second with Ken Roberts. Mark Paglia sits fourth in overall points, 14 points back. Bob Seminara fifth. He's 15 points out. Got a tie for sixth place between Jerm Lewis and Jeff Crivello, 17 points back each. Dave Melson sits in eighth, 18 points back. Brian Rawson and Richard Martin, the defending champion, tied for ninth, 24 points out. And 11th place right now, Kelly Causey, 25 points back. Greg Palmer, our winner from this racetrack 2 weeks ago, currently sits in the 12th position, 28 points back. So as of right now, 12 drivers would be eligible for the playoffs via points. Greg Palmer, right now the only driver inside of the top 20 with a victory. Dante Ricky not in the field here tonight. And our winner last week, he moved up to 21st in points, but needs to be in the top 20 for the win to count towards a playoff position. And as we heard from last week, he's part-time, so unlikely that we'll see him get a playoff spot here this season, but you never know. Dante Ricky's always a threat for a checkered flag whenever he shows up. Lights out on the Chevrolet Corvette pace car, so we're going back green on lap 10 of 66. Tim Knopfsker going to be the leader. Brian Schilling will line up in second. Doug Woolley and Joe DeSpirito, they're going to be in row 2. Bob Seminara, Milt Surratt, row 3. Row 4 finds Kelly Causey and Bobby Farrell. And then Bob Seminara and Richard Martin will complete the top 10. Looks like Terry Bombard, Robbie Nisus, Donnie Garrett, Brian Rawson, JT Mayhew all came to pit road there at the 1 to green. So if you're looking for some of those drivers, if we get into a long green flag run and a green flag pit stop cycle, that might wait until the very last minute to come to pit road at the end of a cycle, those would be the drivers to keep an eye on here. Tim Knopfsker comes into this one 31st in points. So there's a driver that really, he'd love a win, but he wants to get some points here this evening. Work his way up in the standings. I mentioned about the fact that with only 2 races in the books last week, a lot of drivers gained a ton of spots in the standings. A lot of drivers plummeted in the standings. The season is still young. Still plenty of opportunity to gain multiple points in this race. I mean, last week, Richard Martin and Wiley Coate and Chuck McClure all gained 15 spots in the standings. Jeremy Jeffries gained 13. While on the flip side, Rodney Sullins and Bobby Farrell lost 14 spots in the standings. Milt Surratt lost 12. Greg Palmer, our season opening winner, lost 11. So it's not just lose 2 or 3 spots. It's lose double-digit spots or gain double-digit spots here in the early portion of the season. As I'm seeing a third lane back there, and it's Grant Wesley that's leading it. DeMar sees the momentum. He jumps up to that third lane. Oh, there we go. That's going to be a big one. Right in the middle of 1 and 2. Grant Wesley is up and over. Wiley Coate is up and over. Jeremy Jeffries is up and over. One of the Blue Angels cars got loose in the middle of the 3 wide. Both of them are involved. There's somebody up in the catch fence there. That's Craig Hagley. Now the big one has struck here at Talladega, and it has taken a lot of drivers with it. Brian Schilley's going to lead them back here to the second caution of the night. And there are the victims. Jerm Lewis, Mark Paglia, Chris Emery, Doug Hewlick, Wiley Coate, Smoking, Bernie Mobbs, Jessica Shelton. Don't know if she was involved, or Bernie Mobbs. Those cars look relatively unscathed. They may have gotten bits and pieces, but I don't think they got the brunt of the wreck. Jeremy Jeffries, that car is still running despite the fact he was up on his roof barrel rolling in the infield grass. It's kind of hard to tell with the damage model here for the Aero 88 cars, just all who got involved and who didn't. That car I know was up and over, Grant Wesley. The engine's still running, though, in that machine. Look how the back end is all compacted in. Glenn Harris looks like he might have a little bit of rear end damage. There were 3 cars that I saw flipping, at least. Wesley, Jeffries, and Wiley Coate. We'll have to see if any others might have gone for a tumble there, as that was right in the center of 1 and 2. A lot of drivers slide up the track, slide down the track. The track gets completely blockaded up, nowhere for drivers to be able to go for an escape route. Joe DeSpirito and Bob Seminara making a dive onto pit lane there is some split strategy with the timing of this caution. As we go back and take a look at what happened. Like I said, I caught the very end of it, and I think it was one of the Blue Angel cars. I think it's Chris Emery is the one that's in the middle. And I don't know if he gets a bump from behind or if he just gets loose. Here it is. Going into turn 1. Oh, nope. It was the 72 of Jim Glaude. Pushes up from the bottom into Emery, who then gets sent up into Grant Wesley, and just look at the carnage. Terry Bombard, Donnie Garrett, Shelton, Cy Jones, Doug Hewlick. They were all involved. I think the 7 of Cy Jones might have actually fallen out of the server. His car disappeared right there. Chuck McClure was in this. Let's see if we can, with that camera angle again, document other drivers that got involved. Josh Metallic got a little piece of it there. Doug Cady spinning. There's McClure on the left side of your screen. Glenn Harris as well just went off to the left side of the screen. Big wreck there in 1 and 2. I thought that Harris had gotten through it, but he did not. Trying to see if there's somebody we can get a good onboard with. Bob Dixon might have gotten through this. Let's take a look and see. On board with the STP Dodge. That is a heck of a miss by Bob Dixon, but you saw it right there. That late hit, Doug Cady into Craig Hagley, is what's going to pop the 82 up into the catch fence. JT Mayhew also got a piece of this. Let's focus it on the 82 of Hagley and watch this. Right there, he's going to get hit by Jim Glaude, but then he hits the wall, comes back down, and Doug Cady is not in control of his car. He's sliding backwards and then just T-bones the 82 up into the catch fence. That was a violent hit. I wonder what the velocity of that impact was. Let me see if I can follow this again and see at the time that the contact is made what the mile per hour is. There's the shot, about 135 miles per hour. That is just unfortunate there for Craig Hagley, because he was probably going to get through that relatively unscathed. Just kind of spun around a bit there. But then that javelin shot, if you will, by Doug Cady. Let me check and see. I think we've got time. Let's do a rear-end camera with the 007 of Cady, and you will see just what the impact looked like as he slid into the 82 of Hagley. Here it is. Wow. Caution out for the second time here tonight. And we've got a couple more drivers back behind the wall as a result. Number of drivers that are beaten and banged up, mangled, and looking to just soldier on and garner whatever points they possibly can here this evening. Don't know how many drivers are going to fall under the category of not up to speed. How many drivers are going to fall into the category of aero damage and need some drafting help to be able to keep up? We'll find all that out when we go back green, but Jim Glaude is out of the race. Wiley Coate also out of the race. They join Alan Martin behind the wall. Craig Hagley at this point is 2 laps down, still sitting on pit lane. His day may be done since he was up in the catch fence, but he had to call the tow to be able to get back to pit lane. And you saw there Cy Jones going around. Cy Jones did indeed fall out of the server at the time of the wreck. And it looks like he is the recipient of the lucky dog, so he should be back on the lead lap here when we go back green. So, with the status of Craig Hagley still unknown, since he is not officially out of the race, we will, for the moment, have him listed in the race. And as soon as I say that, they are now pushing his car back behind the wall. So we will have 31 drivers remaining, those 31 all on the lead lap. Jim Glaude will be 32nd, Wiley Coate 33rd, Craig Hagley 34th. In the finishing results tonight, joining Alan Martin back behind the wall. Jury's out on a bunch of drivers that got some pretty good contact in that wreck. Jeremy Jeffries after his barrel roll. Grant Wesley, same for him. We'll see if those drivers are going to be up to speed or not. 00 of Chris Emery, or the 000 of Chris Emery, I should say, took some pretty good shots in that wreck. I mean, Doug Cady. We saw the impact there of him into Craig Hagley. Pretty good shot with the back end of his race car. Not sure if that's going to affect his speed. A lot of question marks here on who's still going to be competitive and who is not. But up at the front, Brian Schilling and Tim Nofsker going to be the front row. Doug Woolley, Milt Surratt, Kelly Causey the top 5. Then Bobby Farrell, Joe DeSpirito, John Godfrey, Bob Seminara, and Ronnie Selvins the top 10. Remember, Joe DeSpirito was the first one to jump onto pit road, so your top 6 stayed out under this caution period. They'll be about a lap or 2 shorter on fuel than the other drivers behind them. Green flag back in the air. You saw Doug Woolley trying to time that green flag. Had to check up a little bit there to make sure he didn't give an errant bump to Brian Schilling. Schilling was on it, but look at the gap he's got right now back to Tim Nofsker. Nofsker's going to have a big run down the back straightaway. Does he stay committed to the 4? Oh, we got a car in the wall back there. That's Mark Paglia, and he's going to sweep up. I believe that was Chris Emery. That's going to bring out the yellow again. 3rd time tonight. Almost wonder if somebody blew up back there. I don't know if somebody got on the brakes or what, but it almost looked like I saw a plume of dark gray smoke back there as if somebody's engine let go. But Brian Schilling brings us back here to the start-finish line. 3rd caution of the day, and there's the 28 of Mark Paglia. There's Chris Emery in the 000. I have a thought as well of maybe something that might have happened. Let's see if it's the 3rd straight week, potentially for Mark Paglia, maybe having a shifting issue. There it was. Coming out of turn 1. Ooh, Paglia having to check up there for Jeremy Jeffries. And does he downshift right here? Trying to shift up to 4th gear? Yep. This is the 3rd straight week that Mark Paglia has had this issue. The last 2 times have been on restarts, where he goes to shift up, and it looks like he shifts it into reverse or something. This happened at Talladega when he was up at the front on a restart. This happened last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. In the 3rd straight week, it happens here. It's happened when he's shifting to different gears, too. I think the last 2 weeks was when he was shifting from 1st up to 2nd or 2nd up to 3rd. This is the first time that it has occurred of him shifting from 3rd up to 4th. You see right there, yep, shifts it into reverse. You can see the rear wheels lock up. And just no reaction time for Chris Emery. Robbie Nice is getting swept up in this one as well. And the third caution of the evening here at Talladega. Closing in on 20 laps to go. Got some more pit strategy going on here. A lot of drivers coming onto pit road, including the front six that hadn't pit under the last caution. Bob Seminara in the 712 Monte Carlo. Going to be the one to inherit the lead. Bob Dixon, Glenn Harris, Doug Katie, Bernie Mobbs look like they're going to stay out and may subsequently be the top 5 on the upcoming restart. Now, next week, these drivers, they'll be back to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway next Thursday night, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Getting close here as well to everybody's favorite portion of the season when the Bracket Challenge comes about. Joe DeSpirito, the defending Bracket Challenge champion. So while drivers are trying to make plans here to get into the playoffs, they're also trying to get themselves up into the top, I believe it's 32 seeds, where the brackets are formatted from. And we should be back underway in the next couple of laps here. I think we'll get the 1 to green next time by. Not this time by, but the following time by. So while we await this caution period, we're going to step aside for an FRN race break. And then we'll be back here to the action from Talladega Super Speedway. Don't go anywhere. Coverage continues right after this. The timing of the third caution of the evening here at Talladega Superspeedway has turned over the top 10 order. Bob Seminara and Bob Dixon are going to be leading us back to green here, nearing a third of the way through tonight's event. Glenn Harris and Doug Cady will be in row 2. Bernie Mobbs, Donnie Garrett, row 3. Row 4 will be Doug Kulik and Tim Nofsker, and Brian Schilling, who's led the most laps so far here tonight at 7, will share the rest of the top 10 in row 5 with Joe DeSpirito. No needs for lucky dogs here under this caution period. All drivers running, 31 in total, were on the lead lap. So we'll get ready to go back green. We didn't get enough laps to be able to figure out about the questionable up-to-speed cars. They got some pretty good damage in the second wreck of the evening, the big one over in 1 and 2. Might get a chance to find out here as Seminara brings us down here to the start-finish line. Flagman has control. And he gets us back underway. 20 laps complete here in race number 3. Woo! About 3-4 cars looked really loose there, drifting up the track. Going into turn 3 is Glenn Harris fighting hard on the bottom against Bob Seminara. Saw Donnie Garrett on the back straightaway jump up to the third lane. Nobody wanted to test the waters with him. He's heading to the back. And Seminara, by a little less than half a car length, is going to get Glenn Harris at the line. Harris, though, continuing to try there on that bottom. Oh, gosh. He got the apron. Almost drifted up into the driver's side door of Bob Seminara. A little bit of a gap back there from Bob Dixon to Doug Cady. That could help the inside line out a bit, as they look like they're in a pretty tight draft. Harris back to Mobbs, back to Hulick, back to Schilling. You can see the surge right there on the inside line through 3 and 4. And that's when off of turn 4 onto the straightaway here through the tri-oval, then the middle line or the outside line gets a momentum contact made between Harris and Seminara right up at the front of the field, and Harris is going to lead that lap. These cars don't have splitters, they have valances, so I guess we could say by a valance, Glenn Harris leads that lap. That was a scary moment right there through the tri-oval when the cars are at their lightest, at their most vulnerable. That contact between the top 2 and their respective lines. Doug Cady going to move up to the third line there. We have a third lane forming. Chuck McClure back there around the 13th, 14th position trying to make something happen. He's got some people up there with him. Josh Metallic's up there. I believe that's Mark Paglia also up there as well. Brian Rawson, Milt Surratt, they're trying to see if they can get something going. Doug Cady, now the leader of that line. That's at the stripe. I believe Glenn Harris led a second lap right there. Just barely. Good battling up here at the front. Good battling back around the 12th position where we see that 3 wide. Looks like 3 drivers, after everyone got up to speed, are off the pace after the contact received in the second caution of the evening. Both of the Blue Angel cars, the teammates Chris Emery and Jerm Lewis, and also looks like Grant Wesley. Wesley not only took a tumble and had roof damage, but he had the back end of his car kind of pushed up like the tails of a peacock. And that is a parachute when it comes to super speedway racing. I mean, you see how these cars, the Aero 88 cars, have that very low spoiler to allow for better straight line straightaway speed. Ooh, that was an uneven bump right there. Mobbs into Glenn Harris. That helps the middle line surge ahead, but with Grant Wesley having the back end pushed in the way it was, that is sticking that spoiler up higher in the air, which means more drag, which means less straight line speed. So 28 cars in this lead pack. Man, Glenn's having a hard time holding that bottom. Got his left sides down there below the yellow line through the tri-oval. Not only do you run the risk that way of drifting up into the car that's above you that might be trying to pinch you down, but also then the cars behind you react. They get out of the throttle, and that stalls the momentum of the entire line that you're in. Bob Seminara, surprisingly, here, after he and Nofsker got clear of the inside line, they jumped down to the bottom, leaving the middle line to be led by Bob Dixon. Interesting call there, because I don't think these drivers are anywhere close to thinking about coming to pit road here for green flag pit stops. They still got a ways to go before that. Maybe the car just feels better down there. Maybe they feel that it's more organized down there. Not sure what it is that went into the call of them jumping down to the bottom, because this is usually an indicator of green flag pit stops. Usually, when they don't have to think about that, they like running that middle groove. But so far, it's working for them, and it doesn't look like that middle line is making any progress. Matter of fact, there's only 3 cars in that middle line right now, with Dixon, DeSpirito, and Bombard. It's Chuck McClure, high, wide, and handsome, leading a third lane that's got quite a few numbers up there. About 8 cars, it looks like, in total. Chuck McClure, who went around in the first caution of the day, and then got a piece of the second incident over in 1 and 2. Started deep in the field and still charging his way up here to the front. McClure coming into this race 18th in points, had a good run last week that jumped him 15 spots in the standings. Was in the conversation for the win 2 weeks ago here at Talladega before he got shuffled out of line, tried to tuck back in line, made contact with Richard Martin, and was involved in a wreck over here in 3 and 4. Glenn Harris has jumped up to the middle groove now. Maybe it feels a little bit more comfortable up there. We saw him having some problems with that apron when he was running on the middle, or on the inside line, I should say. Bob Dixon, in turn, kind of swapped places with him as he jumped down to the bottom. Now third in line on the inside, right in front of Bernie Mobbs. A couple of Dodges nose to tail there, behind the Chevrolets of Nofsker and Seminara. There's the 88 of Grant Wesley off the pace, letting the leaders on by here on the back straightaway, so he'll fall a lap down. People might be wondering, well, if Grant Wesley is that far off the pace, why is he still out there? Because there's every chance we could have another big one strike, more drivers out of the race, and those are positions and points that Grant can capitalize on. Remember, Grant, last week was his first start in the season. He missed the season opener here at Talladega. And because of that, with his finish last week, Grant Wesley comes into this race 35th in overall points. So he needs every point that he can possibly get here tonight to further advance his way up in the point standings. He is the only driver 1 lap down right now, so he would be in line for a free pass should we get a caution prior to him going a 2nd lap down. We got about half a racetrack before we get to Jerm Lewis and Chris Emery, who have been able to kind of stick with each other in a 2-car tandem. That's Glenn Harris with some connection issues right there, leading that outside line. That can be a little scary. How about Doug Gulick working his way up here into the top 10, right now in the 6th position, right behind points leader Joe DeSpirito. Gulick coming into this race 40th in the point standings. Can really use a good run here tonight. I believe, if I remember correctly, last week he had an engine failure under pacing that took him out of the running. I believe that was last week. It might have been 2 weeks ago here at Talladega. As the top 5, maybe 6, all clear on the inside line. Kelly Causey has now jumped up to the middle groove. Buckshot trying to lead that second line with Glenn Harris. Greg Palmer right there, the guy who won at this very racetrack 2 weeks ago. Trying to double down at Talladega. Milt Surratt, Rodney Sullins up there as well. Both Greg Palmer and Rodney Sullins looking to bounce back from last week. Both were running up towards the front. They got caught up in the restart wreck. And somehow the two of them kind of warped together. Palmer had engine damage. Rodney Sullins had aero damage and I believe engine damage. Palmer was immediately out of the race. Rodney Sullins ran a couple of laps and then he took his car back behind the wall. Subsequently, they both lost a ton of spots in the standings. Greg Palmer dropped from the points lead down to 12th after his victory 2 weeks ago, and Rodney Sullins dropped 14 spots in the standings from 11th down to 25th. So they're looking to gain those points back here this evening. Looks like we're losing another car there at the tail end of this pack. I think that might be the 28 of Mark Paglia. And I think he's too far back for him to be able to draft back up to the lead group. Cy Jones and Doug Cady back there at the tail end as well. Not sure if they're going to be able to get back up there. There was a little gap between them and JT Mayhew. They might be okay, as Tim Knopfsker, nice move up there to the top side through the tri-oval. Gets a shove from Kelly Causey, and now he'll put his Holly Farms 088 out into the wind. Oh, we got a wreck in the back of the pack! Jeremy Jeffries, Donnie Garrett, there's a couple of others back there that were collected as well. And the caution's going to fly for the 4th time here tonight. Just past the halfway point. Tim Knopfsker going to bring them back here to the yellow. Josh Metallic was caught up in this one. And possibly Chuck McClure as Jeremy Jeffries is... Is Jeffries parking it here? Oh, he is. I thought he locked him up getting onto pit road trying to hot pit there, even though pits were closed, but looks like Jeffries is going to have an early night. Tough break there for Jeremy, who came into this race 19th in points, had a great run last week, jumped up 13 spots in the standings, but he might lose those points back here this evening, as he's already out of the race, and he will finish, looks like, in the 31st position. Grant Wesley's going to get the lucky dog here under this caution. Was the only driver 1 lap down, and that's a position he'll pick up on Jeremy. As we take a look and see what happened over on the backstretch. See if we can figure out where the contact begins. Bit of a stack up right there. And then, oh, the hitbox again. Bumper grab. Richard Martin thought he was clear, tried to tuck in behind Donnie Garrett, hooks him up into the wall. Chuck McClure, Josh Metallic, Jeremy Jeffries takes a hard hit into the outside wall. Watch this shot that the Valvoline car takes. Just barely gets clipped in the right rear. Pancakes the right side. Cy Jones does a good job snaking through, as does Doug Cady. Saw the 39 of Josh Metallic spinning down towards the inside of the racetrack. I'm not sure if all of that runoff on the apron was enough to slow him down, or if he made contact with the inside wall. Let's see. Yeah, he gets it with both the left rear and the left front. Chuck McClure also gets a bit of the inside wall also. Take a look at the wreck on board with the Barks Root Beer 338 of JT Mayhew. Here's what he saw. Moves like that, avoiding wrecks, is why JT Mayhew finds himself tied for second in the overall points here coming into tonight's race. One driver that is notably absent from this evening's event is Ken Roberts. So he is going to fall maybe outside of the top 10, top 12 tonight. He was tied for second with JT Mayhew in overall standings coming into this one. And also Jeff Cravello, who was tied for sixth with Jerem Lewis, not in the field here this evening. Mark Paglia has had some problems with gearing tonight, and he was fourth in overall points. He's still running, though. Still on the lead lap at this point in time. Jerem Lewis is, we know, off the pace, but he's trying to salvage what he can. He was also tied for sixth in points coming into this one. So I mentioned about the fact that last week after Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway, there was a big shakeup in the points. It's looking like here tonight, after our third race of the season, we are going to have another points shakeup. Well, with the timing of this yellow past the halfway point, we know these drivers are going to have to make at least one more pit stop to the finish. Saw a little bit of strategy playing out there with some drivers electing to stay out. Brian Rawson led that previous lap. Comes to pit road with about a half dozen others and turns the race lead back over to Tim Nofsker. So far here tonight, Bob Seminara has led the most laps, 15 in total. Brian Schilling's been out in front for a total of 7. Doug Woolley has led 5 laps. 4 laps for Tim Nofsker, right there, led his 4th lap. 2 laps out in front for Glenn Harris. And then 1 lap apiece led by Terry Bombard and most recently Brian Rawson. This is our 4th caution of the evening so far. With Grant Wesley getting the lucky dog, we'll have 30 drivers running, all 30 on the lead lap. 5 drivers back behind the wall: Jeremy Jeffries, Jim Glaude, Wiley Coate, Craig Hagley, and Alan Martin. And that's your halfway update, as we should be getting the lights out in the pace car this next time by. Grant Wesley will be able to go around, get his lap back, and we'll be back to racing once again. So everybody came to pit road here under this caution period, so if you're looking for the target lap of when these drivers may be on pit road for the final stop of the night, if it's under green, potentially the money stop, looking in the vicinity of about lap 57 to 59, depending on how much fuel they save and or use. So that puts us right in the realm of about 7 to 10 laps to go. Once again, appreciate everybody tuning into our coverage here this evening. Race number 3 of season 61 of the Rolling Thunder Gaming Talladega Challenge Series. Next week, these drivers head back to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway for the 4th race of the season. Second time that they test out these Aero 88 cars at that venue. That'll be next Thursday night. Green flag and coverage begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Lights indeed out atop the bright yellow Chevrolet Corvette pace car, and we will get ready to go back green. Tim Nofsker going to be the leader. Kelly Causey will share the front row with him. Greg Palmer, our winner from 2 weeks ago right here at Talladega, lines up in 3rd. Milt Surratt in 4th, and Ronnie Sullins will complete the top 5. Bob Seminara lines up 6th, and Joe DeSpirito rather lines up in 6th. Bob Seminara in 7th. Brian Schilling will be 8th. Glenn Harris in 9th, and Terry Bombard completes the top 10. Bob Dixon will restart in 11th, John Godfrey in 12th, Bernie Mobbs 13th, pole sitter Jessica Shelton in 14th, 15th is going to be Doug Kulik, Mark Paglia will be 16th, 17th Chris Emery, Jerem Lewis in 18th, Doug Cady 19th, and Cy Jones will complete the top 20. Doug Woolley restarts back in 21st, 22nd will be Chuck McClure, 23rd, Josh Metallic. 24th, Donnie Garrett. Robbie Nisus in 25th. 26th is where we'll find Brian Ross and Richard Martin in 27th. Bobby Farrell, 28th. JT Mayhew in 29th. And the final car on the lead lap running in 30th will be Grant Wesley. Can't remember if it was the All-Star race or if it was the Christmas race we did for RTG, but I remember that it was a lot of fun watching the statistics of JT Mayhew and the number of pit stops he made during the course of that race. I feel like he's doing it again this week. JT Mayhew has been to pit road a total of 9 times here so far in this race. Next closest to him, Robbie Nisus with 7 pit stops, and then Brian Rawson with 6. Seems appropriate since he drives the number 6. All right, getting ready to go back green. 28 laps to go in this one. Tim Knopfskirt ready to get us back under the green. Green flag back in the air. Now, as far as these drivers and what the target lap would be if we were to have a yellow flag and the race was going to have one stop to the finish, they'd be looking to make it to somewhere around the lap 46, lap 47 mark. Maybe a little bit earlier if we ended up having the race end under yellow. If we cross the point no return, they'd be able to save probably enough to get the rest of the way. So probably maybe lap 45 or so. But that's only if the race were to end under the yellow flag. So their target lap is going to be somewhere past lap 46, though. If they can get past that point, then a caution coming out past that point would have these drivers good to make it the rest of the way on fuel. Tim Knopfsker in that middle groove, trying to tow along Kelly Causey. Causey not clear, though. Greg Palmer battles back on that inside line. Rodney Sullins right there with him. Bob Seminara as well on that inside line. Trying to forge ahead, stay in touch with this middle lane, but right there off of turn 2, there's just a huge surge. If they're lined up correctly and the draft is tight enough for that outside line to be able to move ahead. So Rott's now clear. DeSpirito will probably be clear here off of turn 4. Brian Schilling waiting for his turn next in line. Chuck McClure, kind of feel like he's the Brian Schilling here tonight. Remember last season, you couldn't look and not see the number 4 Square D Dodge up in the 3rd lane trying to make something happen. Chuck McClure has kind of been that driver here tonight. Every time we see him, he's up there trying to lead a lane on the extreme outside groove. He's had some success. As of right now, though, doesn't look like they've got the momentum they need. Only about 3 cars up in that outside line. Is up at the front. Man, that is a tight draft there through the corner. Causey back to Surratt, back to DeSpirito. Very impressive that they were able to keep that tight of a draft together, because that almost looked like that'd be a recipe for a hitbox issue. But apparently that wasn't the case. They were having a little bit of a problem back there of trying to organize. I think Chuck McClure was trying to take it up top on Doug Hewlick. Hewlick, I think, was trying to lead the 3rd lane. They were trying to kind of leave him in the middle groove. A lot of shuffling going on right here. McClure's going to shoot the middle now. Hewlick is going to move down in front of him. As looks like back to Mark Paglio, which would be the 12th position. They're all single-filed out. Grant Wesley again off the pace. Has dropped back nearly 20 seconds behind the leaders. Chris Emery, Jerm Lewis, same for them. They're about 6 seconds behind the leaders. That last caution saved Grant Wesley, got him back on the lead lap. He needs to have another yellow flag here, because if the trend is the same as it was on the last green flag run, they're probably going to reel him in within the next, I would say, 7 to 10 laps. Wesley did pick up a point with the DNF from Jeremy Jeffries, so he'll move from 31st up to 30th. Every point matters, especially when it comes down to the end of the regular season. You know, we normally don't do it, but I feel we should. When a driver ends up making it into the playoffs via points at the very last minute, very last race, you could kind of go back and look at a scenario like this of them just staying out even though they were off the pace, vulturing their way up a couple of spots, gaining those few points that can be the difference maker between them being above the cut line or below the cut line in terms of a playoff position. There's a lot of jostling going on back there around the 15th position. It's like drivers back there want to make a move. They know they can't keep riding there. They've got to make something happen, generate some kind of a run, but at the same time, you've got that pit stop looming. And I mentioned this at the top of the night. There's only a few drivers, I believe Bob Dixon and Donnie Garrett, I think, were the two last week that were the only ones this entire season that have made green flag pit stops with these Aero 88 cars. We didn't have a green flag pit stop 2 weeks ago. We had a caution come out just prior to that green flag pit stop cycle that I was mentioning there with Dixon and Garrett before everybody else came onto pit lane. So nobody else besides those two has made a green flag pit stop this season. They've taken the opportunity here under practice, under happy hour, to practice green flag pit stops, but they've not yet done it in a race so far here this season. And it'll be interesting to see if they're ready for that challenge. They've run the last couple of seasons with the trucks. A lot of differences between the trucks and the Aero 88 cars. Visibility is one thing. You sit up higher in the truck than you do here in the car. We've already documented about the differences in the hitboxes. We've seen a lot of it here tonight in some errant bumps, some bumper grab. So it will be interesting to see if these drivers are ready for those green flag pit stops, if we have them. The fuel window's open to make it the rest of the way. We're about to complete lap 46, heading on to 20 laps to go. When do we see drivers on pit lane? We could see them on pit road as early as now. We could see them on pit road as late as 13 laps from now. So they passed the 88 of Grant Wesley. So Wesley will go a lap down again. Hope for a quick yellow to be able to get him lucky dog and back on the lead lap. Also looks like Doug Cady may have lost touch with this group. Remember, he was, it looked like, somewhat up to speed, but he does have back-end damage when he slid backwards into Craig Hagley in that second caution of the night over in 1 and 2. So that wouldn't be an indication of engine damage since it was with the back end of the car, but maybe some aero damage there for the driver of the 007. Look at this single file here. And, you know, you look at it and you think, you know, that looks calm. We should be good. We should be able to make it to a green flag pit stop. When they're single filed out like this, that's when the checkup and the bumper grab is most susceptible. So these drivers have to make sure to give a little bit of space to the car in front of them in preparation for potential checkup, especially going through the corner. Now they're all running the middle grooves. So there's less of a chance of checkup than if you're running right down the bottom, but there still is some checkup going into the corner. And Kelly Causey, you saw right there, that is perfect in how to keep forward momentum going, keep that draft tight. You saw he was right on the back bumper of Novsker all the way down until right into the entrance of turn 3. He breathed the throttle a little bit, put a little bit of space between the two of them, but kept the draft tight. That is exactly what you need to do, and it's easier said than done if you're not familiar with the hitboxes here of these Aero 88 cars. Give a little shout out to some drivers that have been a little bit under the radar here today, and we haven't talked much about them. How about Milt Surratt there? Missed last week's race. Running up there in the 3rd spot. Great run for him in the Tide Ride. The Darrell Waltrip throwback. I got it right this week. It's not the Ricky Rudd throwback. Terry Bombard having an outstanding run in the 6th position right now. And right behind him, John Godfrey. Remember last year? Last season, John Godfrey finished 5th in overall standings. Didn't have a victory, but it was one of his most consistent seasons. Well, Godfrey comes into this one 15th in overall points right now, and he's currently in the top 10 once again. Jessica Shelton started on the pole here tonight, led the first lap, and immediately jumped to the outside line to fall to the back. She's been able to avoid most of the carnage here this evening, has made her way back up into the top 10, currently sitting in 9th. And Mark Paglia, who's had issues here this evening, 3rd straight race where he's had a gearing issue on a restart. This time it was shifting up to 4th gear on the back straightaway. He's been able to overcome that. Currently he's running just outside the top 10 in the 12th position. Double wide back behind him around the 14th spot. Doug Hewlick and Donnie Garrett trying to make something happen on that outside line. But nobody's biting, nobody's interested right now. So I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'm going to say that more than likely you're going to see a lot of these drivers hitting pit road somewhere in the next 5 laps. The reason being, I think they'll probably come to pit road when they have to take on a can of fuel. And that would be with about 10 to go. So that would be in about 5 laps from now. I think I might have just seen a radio light up. We might have somebody diving onto pit road as early as right now. Let's watch back in the field, see if anybody's running low on the track. No, it doesn't look like it. If anybody's coming to pit road early, you'd have to think it might be the 143 of Bob Dixon, but nope, I just saw him. He's still out there. Jerm Lewis and Chris Emery, they're only about 16 seconds ahead of the race leader, so they're going to get caught pretty soon here. There they are on the back straightaway just now going into 3, and the leader was about midway down the back stretch. So yeah, they're catching them pretty quick. Question is, will they catch them before the green flag pit stop cycle? Or will it be just around when they come to pit road that they catch that duo? Kelly Causey with a move there to the inside of Tim Nofsker. And that was interesting because it was almost like Nofsker gave the spot to Kelly Causey, and he's going to tuck in line there in 4th place. I think Nofsker did not want to be leading anymore. Using up more fuel out there in the lead, I think he wanted to find a place in line to be able to save a little so he can come to pit road with these race leaders and not be about a lap shorter than them. You saw Brian Rawson leaving pit lane. Believe he actually just made a pit stop. But he came down pit road by himself. And do we have pitters here? They're running really low on the track. Nope, not yet. But I think they're planning on it. Next 2 or 3 laps, I think you're going to see a lot of radios lighting up. So Kelly Causey, that was actually his first time out in front tonight. First lap that he has led so far here this evening. And he's led a couple more afterwards. There's the Blue Angels of Emery and Lewis that are about to get past. I think I just saw a radio light up. Brian Rawson is going to be coming back down pit lane. He just got hit with a speeding penalty. So he's going to have to serve the pass-through there. Here we go. DeSpirito, Nofsker, Schilling coming in this lap. Got about 8, 9, 10 drivers coming in. Paglia, Richard Martin, Bob Dixon, Cy Jones, Donnie Garrett amongst those. Looks like that group all made it onto pit road. Question is, did they get it woed down to pit road speed quickly enough? This is the money stop. You cannot afford a black flag. Without the aid of a yellow, you don't really have a chance of getting back into this fight if you get a penalty. Let's see if Kelly Causey, Milt Surratt, if they're going to come to pit road this time. Looks like Surratt is. Yep, Causey's in. Godfrey, Palmer. Whoa, Bobby Farrell, hard on the brakes, off into the grass. I think he missed the commitment line, which I think is going to probably be a 30-second penalty for him. He's going to get onto pit lane, though. Whoa, Brian Rawson comes flying in. I think he's coming down to serve his pass-through. It's like just about everybody that hadn't pitted with that first group pitted here with this second group. And it looks like they all made it onto pit road safely. This could be who it cycles out to. Joe DeSpirito won the battle off of pit lane again against Nofsker and Schilling. DeSpirito qualified 22nd in this race via the random queue order. Nofsker qualified in 8th and Schilling qualified in 4th, so Schilling would have had the advantage in terms of most forward pit stall, but DeSpirito, with having a pit stall further back, might have had a better launch for pit road exit. And he's going to swing around Kelly Causey and Milt Surratt, so right there is going to be a lead change. And I'm going to double check, but I think that when they come around here and DeSpirito goes to the top of the board, yeah, it's going to be the first lap that Joe DeSpirito leads here tonight. Last week we saw Joe DeSpirito make his way up to finish runner-up to Dante Ricky, and I asked him, we really didn't see you up there at the front all night long like we're used to seeing. Make your appearance very late. That's not been the case here tonight. He's been up front all evening long, up in the top 5 for the entirety of the second half of this race, but nailing that pit stop, I wish we had the resources to be able to see where time is gained or lost on pit road, whether it's on entry, whether it's the pit stop itself, or whether it's on exit, or maybe a combination of all three. Unfortunately, we don't have that kind of technology. But I would love to have known how it was that DeSpirito was able to jump Nofsker and Schilling there. And I believe that he was the third car in line of those drivers when they hit pit lane. Kelly Causey, Milt Surratt, they're now into the 4th and 5th positions. How about Josh Metallic? He's in 6th place now, the Gray Ghost. Trying to catch up to that top 5. Chuck McClure is in the 7th spot. Mark Paglia in 8th. 9th right now, Greg Palmer and Rodney Sullins. Completion of the top 10. Jessica Shelton trying to stay in touch with them. Bob Seminara there as well, as he's trying to make his way around the lap car of Doug Cady. It's like Glenn Harris is going to cycle into 13th, Doug Hewlick in 14th, and Terry Bombard in 15th. The 6th car of Brian Rawson has been disqualified for not serving the black flag penalty. So it looks like he's going to get credited for, well, maybe 30th. Grant Wesley's got a chance. He's got enough laps to be able to pass him for 29th. And Bobby Farrell, who we saw miss the pit lane commitment line, more than likely got a 30-second penalty. You see he's now in danger of going a lap down. You saw the lead change there. Joe DeSpirito got passed by Tim Nofsker, and he is getting shuffled all the way back to maybe the 10th position. Tim Nofsker, who's now led the most laps this evening, 19 in total, out in front. Brian Schilling right behind him. Kelly Causey in that 3rd spot. Milt Surratt in 4th, and now Metallic moves into the top 5 after the 24 of DeSpirito got shuffled out. We got quite a number of drivers that are off the lead lap. Bobby Farrell, Doug Cady, Robbie Nisus, as well as the cars that are off the pace like Lewis, Emery, and Wesley. By the way, Wesley just picked up the 29th spot from Brian Rawson. So our point of no return would be at the completion of lap 61, I do believe. There is Wesley coming back onto the track, letting the leaders on by. So we've only got about 2 laps here, 1.5 laps before we'd hit that point of no return where the next flag would end the race. And right now, it looks like your top 7 are looking for their first checkered flag of the season. Greg Palmer in the 8th position has already won right here at Talladega 2 weeks ago. Dante Ricky not in the field. We've got 12 lead lap cars up in this group right now. They're all single file. How long does that last? Who makes the move? Brian Schilling seems pretty content for the moment to stay behind Tim Knopfsker. Is he planning on waiting until the last lap? There's the driver making a move back there. Rodney Sullins, Joe DeSpirito, Jessica Shelton. That's the 9th, 10th, and 11th place cars trying to make something happen here. Rodney Sullins, a 3-time winner here 1 season ago. In this series, I should say. One of those victories right here at Talladega. The other 2 were at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. He's getting up alongside of Chuck McClure to battle for 6th position as we are now at 5 laps remaining. It's the point of no return. Here's your usual disclaimer. If a caution breaks out, we will go back afterwards and look at the replays of what happened, but we will be staying with this battle at the front until they race back to the caution or the checkered flag, whichever the case may be. And there's a lot of movement going on. Josh Metallic looking to go to the inside of Milt Surratt. Surratt going to stay in line there with Kelly Causey. No help for the 39 on the inside line. And here comes the top. Ronnie Sullins, Joe DeSpirito, Jessica Shelton. They got Bobby Farrell, the lap car, up there with him. Bob Seminara is going to move up there as well as Metallic, left out to dry on the inside line, going to fade to the back of this lead group. Joe DeSpirito said he's got a lot of confidence in pushing with these Aero 88 cars. Rodney Sullins going to need every ounce of that confidence here on these straightaways. Knopfsker continuing to show the way. Kelly Causey, I look at him. I look at Brian Schilling. Oh, Causey's going to go to the bottom with Milt Surratt. Look at this. Brian Schilling's going to get caught out. Knopfsker sees the run coming. He's going to move down and block. Rodney Sullins is going to put Brian Schilling in the middle, as Schilling will now tuck in behind Surratt. A lot of moving and shaking going on up here at the front of the field. Tim Knopfsker might have to keep both eyes out the rearview mirror and just trust instinct in what the windshield is bringing up in terms of each corner. As Causey ducks high, ekes low. Knopfsker watching every movement, trying to replicate it, trying to mimic it, throwing every block he possibly can. Look at the push that Rodney Sullins is getting down the back straightaway, though, from Joe DeSpirito. Now Knopfsker has a choice to make. He's going to go to the middle line. Sullins with a push. He tries to go even higher, putting Knopfsker in the middle. Knopfsker's not going to have it. Causey on the inside line. Little contact at the back of this pack between Metallic and Paglia. And it's a dead heat here to the start-finish line with 2 laps to go. JT Mayhew now going to go a lap down. He gets up out of the way. Not going to be a factor in this battle. As it's side by side, 6 rows, 7 rows deep. Which lane's going to prevail here? Push is going to start to come to shove. It might already be at shove level. As that middle line, better momentum down the back straightaway. They'll get Knopfsker clear, it looks like, to the front. Maybe not quite, Causey might still be to his left rear quarter panel. They just got to get back around here to the start-finish line. And we will race back to the checkers no matter what. Looks like they're going to get there. Tim Knopfsker clear of both lanes. Stays with the middle line into turn 1. Causey with a push from Milt Surratt. He's going to draw back even here. Off of turn number 2. Going to try and move up the track. Maybe slide the 080 up a little groove. Cy Jones going to move up out of the way. Knopfsker clear still. Rodney Sullins trying to get clear to be able to maybe duck to the bottom. Not going to be able to do it. Knopfsker keeps him stacked up in that second row. Causey battles back on the bottom. Milt Surratt trying to help push him there. Does Sullins have anything to try and take it 3 wide? Doesn't look like it. Causey gets put down the apron and saves it, but Tim Knopfsker keeps them all at bay. And Tim Knopfsker, with some great mirror driving in the closing stages, is going to pick up his first win of the season. Leads a race-high 25 laps. Was able to hold off the momentum of Rodney Sullins and Kelly Causey, who are both going to finish in the podium here tonight. And Tim Knopfsker, who came into this race 31st in points, and there it is, there's always one. Kelly was the one this week. There's always one that spins out the winner. But Knopfsker really needed points coming into this one tonight, and he's going to get a bunch of them early going of the season. Points all super close. Knopfsker will for sure move up into the top 20 in the point standings. So he will be in a playoff position heading into next week. The question is, how high does he move up in points? Does he mathematically have a shot of moving up into the top 12 in overall standings? We shall have to wait and see. Well, Knopfsker going to come down through the tri-oval, down to the start-finish line, and the Holly Farms Chevrolet will get to do some celebratory burnouts here tonight as he becomes the third different winner on the season, joining Greg Palmer and Dante Ricky as a winner here in the 61st season of the Talladega Challenge Series. Well, Tim Knopfsker, remember, just before the green flag pit stop cycle began, he ended up ducking out of line from the race lead, drifted back to around the 4th or 5th position to tuck in line to be able to make it on fuel to the number that a number of other drivers were looking to with that pack that came to pit road. He also made a really good move on Joe DeSpiro to take the race lead and was able to then keep everybody in his rearview mirror. Some great defensive driving here in the closing stages by Tim Knopfsker. Let's take a look at the finishing results. Tim Knopfsker with the win. Rodney Sullins brings it home in second. Kelly Causey will finish it out in third. That's your podium finishers here tonight. Third straight top 5 finish to start out the year for Joe DeSpirito, so he will undoubtedly still be keeping the points lead heading into next week. Milt Surratt, great run for him tonight in a top 5 in 5th. Jessica Shelton, great run for her tonight. After starting on the pole, brings it home in 6th. Brian Schilling led the third most laps here tonight. He will bring it home in 4th. Second most laps were led by Bob Seminaire, who gets 8th. Josh Metallic tried to make that move late, didn't get the help. He drifted back to finish in 9th, and Mark Paglia will complete the top 10. Greg Palmer, who won at this racetrack 2 weeks ago, gets 11th. Chuck McClure in 12th. And those were the drivers that were finished up in the lead pack. Doug Hulick finished in 13th. John Godfrey 14th. Terry Bombard 15th. 16th was Richard Martin and Glenn Harris in 17th. Last drivers to finish on the lead lap, Donnie Garrett, Bernie Mobbs, and Doug Woolley, your top 20. That final green flag pit stop definitely spreading everybody out. Several drivers finished off the lead lap as a result of those green flag pit stop cycles. Bobby Farrell, Doug Cady, Bob Dixon, Cy Jones, JT Mayhew, Robbie Nisus, all one lap down. And then also Jerm Lewis and Chris Emery, they fell a lap down due to crash damage. Grant Wesley did not reach the conclusion of this one, but he did manage to pick up some spots. I think he picked up 2 spots of where he would have finished had he retired at the time that he was caught up in the wreck. He finishes 29th. Rawson, Jeffries, Gloud, Coate, Hagley, and Alan Martin all failed to reach the conclusion. Going to be a big hit in the point standings for Grant Wesley, who really needed points coming into this one. Jeremy Jeffries also needed some points coming into this one as he was down there in the points. Where was he exactly? He was 19th in points coming into this one. Wiley Coates going to take a big hit as well. He was 13th in points coming into this race, and that DNF is not going to help him. And Craig Hagley, that catch fence, second time that he has been in the catch fence. He's been airborne in this season, so he'll be looking for some better luck next week. Some notable names that were not in this race as well that were inside of the top 10. We documented about Jeff Crivello. Dave Melson was also not in the field here tonight. Ken Roberts. So there will be a lot of positions that will be swapping at the conclusion of this one heading into next week. But it's time to head into our FRN post-race wind down and chat with some of the drivers here tonight about that final run to the checkered flag. Let's see if we can first dial up the guy that brings it home in third place this evening. Let's talk with Kelly Causey.
User was moved
Hey,
to
Kelly,
your
Seth up here
channel.
in the FRM booth. You got a copy?
10-4, bud.
Well, wild finish here this evening. That green flag pit stop, obviously the biggest X factor, but a lot of big runs, a lot of big moves there with the respective lines in the closing stages. You were the leader of that inside line. We know that normally it's really difficult to get that run off the corner, get that straightaway speed. Was there something you guys could have done to be able to get that straightaway speed here, be able to edge you out there on Nofsker, or was it all you could do just hoping that maybe they got broken up and the inside line stayed true to each other?
Yeah, I thought it was, when I got down there, I was waiting for that third line to form and just never did. Then you'll get to take off. But I thought me and Milt and the guys that were behind me there, Milt did a great job of keeping it where we were because there was a lot of times that bottom line just dropped like a rocket. So, but I thought we held our own there, and Tim came down and got in front of us, then went back up. So, it was a good finish. I think we got about all we could get out of it.
One thing we got treated to this week that we haven't seen yet this season was you guys making green flag pit stops with these Aero 88 cars. Any similarities, any differences you noticed between them and the trucks we've been running the past couple of seasons?
No, I think I about pitted as best I could, based off that, I think I'm excited about the future of the pitting because it felt real good when I took it in there. So,
So you came into this race 11th in the points. We know that the top 12 in points automatically get locked into the playoffs at the end of the regular season. You follow that up here tonight with a top three. How important is it in a super speedway series to start out the year on a high note with these consistent finishes?
well, you got to, I've been fortunate to have some good races here, and really, if you can stay out of trouble early in the season, you at least got a chance. You can kind of overcome a hiccup there, in the middle of the season and whatnot. So right now, things are going really good. Had some good runs, and you got to get up there in the front, and I hate to say it, we've kind of had some wrecks on a regular basis, and it got better there at the end. Hopefully, that's a sign for the future. But yeah, you need to be away from everything when it's all happening.
Well, some good consistency to start out the year. Hopefully, this continues into next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Third place for you here tonight. Led some laps as well. Congratulations, Kelly. Before we let you go, floor is yours for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank you, Seth, for the good job you do and the guys here at RTG. It's one of the premier programs and whatnot. So, congratulations to Tim. We worked together with each other there for a little while, and I had to try to lead a lap, and I went ahead and took it. But and then Milt did a great job of working with me. So, and then all the guys that my teammates had some good finishes tonight too. So, good win for us here at Crisco Buddy Baker car, and we look forward to next week.
Kelly Causey, third place here this evening at Talladega Super Speedway. He'll be even further up in the top 10 in points heading into next week under lights at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. Congratulations on the great run. Best of luck next week.
Thank you, Seth.
User was moved
Let's see if
out
we
of
can
your
dial up the
channel.
driver that brings home second place here tonight, Rodney Sullins.
User was
Hey,
moved to
Rodney,
your
Seth up here in
channel.
the FRM booth. You got me?
Hey, how you doing, Seth?
Well, man, I'll tell you what, from the hardships of last week to here tonight, almost picking up that victory. You had a lot of momentum on that outside line. We saw you keep edging up higher and higher, trying to see if you could get to the right rear of Nofsker. Not able to do it off of turn four. Was that all she wrote, or could you have generated another run to maybe try and stick him in the middle?
Well, he threw a heck of a block on, I think it was coming to the white flag lap out of four there, which I'm sure is the one you're referring to. Now I had to burp it, to make sure we didn't all wad him up. He did what he had to do, and then just push him, get our speed back, and just push him to the last. And the last lap, when he went slow, I was actually going to go high, hoping Joe would go. I think Joe would have went with me. I was going to give it a shot, but just didn't have it. Just couldn't get it going.
We were watching all of you in that lead pack after the pit stop cycle had completed. We were wondering who was going to be that guy that was going to step out, try and make that outside line work instead of everybody riding in line. You were the guy that were the first one to step out there. Had some really good momentum making your way up through the field. Looked like you guys moved a lot quicker than we normally have seen, even with the trucks these past couple of seasons. There were only about, I think, 2 or 3 or 4 of you up on that outside line, but it looked like you had a much longer train. Does it seem like here with these Aero 88 cars that the runs are able to be generated and momentum going forward is a little bit faster than in years past?
It does. I like this mod. I think it races really great. I know we've had a few incidents, people getting, I guess, used to the hit boxes on them, but I really like them. I think they draft great. I think they race great. But yeah, we were moving. I was kind of pleasantly surprised how well we were moving there. You know, just what was it? You said 4 or 5 of us, I think,
Yep.
doing pretty well there.
Now, had a great start to the year here when we had the season opener 2 weeks ago. Finished in the top 10. Last week, involved in that restart wreck. We saw the strange warp incident between you and Greg Palmer. Lost 14 spots in stands as a result. How much emphasis did you put into tonight in making sure you got at least some of those points back with a good run?
Well, I felt like I had to have a good run tonight because I was, as you said, lost 14 spots. So I was 25th position in points coming into tonight, and I felt like another bad race, and I'm in the 30s easily. So I wanted to have a good race. I qualified, Lotto qualified, I think it was 30th. So I'm like, oh man, it was an uphill battle, but just had some patience and things worked out. I did get a black flag for speeding on pit road about midway through the race and had to work my way back up from that. But yes, the focus was tonight. I would love to have got around Tim. Love to have got around Tim and went ahead and got that checkered flag and hopefully secured my spot in the playoffs. But hey, I'm satisfied with the P2. I needed it.
Yeah, second place finish here tonight on the podium. Looks like as we've got the point standings in, you lost 14 spots last week. You gained 13 of them back here tonight. So nice job of kind of canceling now, maybe having like a little bit of a mulligan from last week's race and right back up in the conversation for a playoff position. I know it's still early on in the season, but we're still going to be talking about playoffs even as early as now. But Rodney, great job for you here tonight. Second place finish, a podium run, first on the season. We'll now turn the floor over to you for thank you, sponsors, and shoutouts.
Well, obviously, thank you, Seth, Flatout Racing Network. I'm so looking forward to watching this broadcast because I know there was some crazy wrecks, but there was some good racing too. So thank you. Love what you do. You're the best. Appreciate you. Jason Scheck, 260 Motorsports, for sponsoring the broadcast here that you guys do. I want to thank David Cannon, Sean Prime, the owners of Rolling Thunder. Of course, Josh, Tim, and Wiley. Congrats again to Tim. But the admins for Thursday night here, they do a great job. All the admins and drivers at Rolling Thunder Gaming. Really happy for Kelly. He had a great run. Good run for Milt, too. My BSR teammates there. My dad's watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Love you. Thank Black Rifle Coffee, Rock and Brews, GTR Chairs, Thrustmaster, and Banabrisa. And I am out, Seth. Thank you, buddy.
Well, Rodney Sullins, he's your second place finisher here tonight at Talladega Super Speedway. Back up into the top 12 in points heading into BSR next week. Congratulations once again, Rodney. Best of luck next week under the lights.
Thank you, Seth. Have a good night, man.
User was moved
And let's
out of
go
your
down to
channel.
victory lane, see if we can dial up tonight's race winner, Tim Nofsker.
User was moved
Hey, Tim,
to
Seth
your
up
channel.
here in the FRM booth. You got me?
Yeah, do I know you?
It's been a while, man. I'll tell you what. Let's look back real quickly at the first two races on the season. 22nd in the season opener, 34th last week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. I mean, it's got to feel like a weight off your shoulder to be back in victory lane here and jump up in the point standings with how early we are in the season. I mean, just how much of a load off your shoulders, how much of a sigh of relief did you have when you crossed the start finish line and received that checkered flag?
Oh, that was a huge sigh because I was tight on fuel too. So, yeah, it was a big relief. I got to tell you, I ran pretty good the first two races of the season, but unfortunately, I kind of hosed myself last week and got caught up in someone else's mess the week before. So, that's how it can go. You can have a great race, and disaster strikes within the last few laps, and you find yourself in 35th spot. So, yeah, tonight I was able to stay up front and maintain the track position that I needed, and able to pull it off there.
You talked about being tight on fuel, and we observed just before that last green flag pit stop cycle, it looked like you kind of willingly gave up the lead, cycled back to around the fourth position. Was that so that you would be able to make it to the conclusion on that pit stop? Was that an early call for later on in the race?
I knew I'd be able to save a little, but I think the bigger key was when we came out of the pits, I didn't really I could have probably blew by Joe on the backstretch. I had such a run on him, but I dropped in behind him, knowing that I was going to have to save just a tad. And I think I went from running out off of turn 4 to basically running out just past the start finish line. And that's why that kind of prompted the move when I passed him early, thinking that I had enough at that point.
Let's talk about that final run to the checkers because you put on some very impressive blocks, stalling the inside led by Kelly, stalling the outside with that big run with Rodney. Obviously, we've documented the fact that this series has undergone many different mod changes. When we came on board, you guys were in the Men Cup 2019. We saw you guys the last couple of seasons in the trucks, and now you're here in the Aero 88 cars. Is there a difference of some kind when you're trying to throw super speedway blocks with a different mod, or did it feel like same old for you here tonight?
To be honest with you, I'm not a big advocate of blocking. I don't like to, but given the situation with points, I felt, you never know when you're going to have the opportunity to win one. So I felt like I had to get a little bit more aggressive. But to me, the Aero 88s seem to draft up quicker than the trucks. So where you can kind of, figure out what a guy's doing in the trucks, it seems like the arrows tend to catch you off guard a little bit more. So I almost missed the block on Rodney, and I hate to do that because he's such a great racer, and a great guy. But I hate to stall him out like that. But if he gets to my right rear corner, then I'm done. So I had to be a little aggressive with that one.
So you came into tonight's race 31st in points. They've updated the point standings after the conclusion of this one. 18 spots gained up to 13. So you're already into the top 20 with that victory, which puts you into a playoff spot in striking distance to be in the top 12 in points, where you wouldn't have to rely on that win to be in the postseason. How does having this win now, finally gaining all those points after the first two races, how does that change the mentality for the rest of the regular season in terms of your strategy and your aggressive level?
Well, I think I can tone down the aggression some. It's all about racing smart, consistent finishes. I think I kind of started at such a deficit that, getting in the top 5 or even 3 for a points championship, I think that's probably not realistic, given that it's a short season. But yeah, I think just try to play it safe and maybe help those who will help me, and just try to leg it out and get as high as I can in points from here on.
Well, tremendous job here tonight. Really good job of keeping them all at bay, all the different lines moving up there and keeping them all in your rearview mirror. You pick up the victory tonight, lead the most laps, and gain a ton of points in the standings. Before we get back to your celebration here, Tim, the floor is yours for thank you sponsors and shoutouts.
First of all, I'd like to thank Brian Schilling. He helped me right there at the end, and he's a great race car driver and a great guy to have on your side. So I've got to thank him and Kelly Causey and Rodney Sullins. Those guys are all premier racers here, and to know that you can run around them and not have to worry about getting wrecked, I mean, those are top-notch racers in my opinion. So I want to thank all those guys. And then, of course, thank you for, it looked like you were a lone wolf tonight, so thank you for doing the broadcast. Also, I'd like to thank Josh and Wiley for triple teaming the Tally Challenge admin duties. Also like to thank Bones Prime, Jason Scheck, for being a part of sponsoring the series this season. And that's about it. So great place to race and some of the best guys around. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
Well, congratulations on your victory here tonight, Tim. Going to be a lot of fun to see what you do here for the remainder of the season in preparation for a playoff berth. Go and enjoy that victory. Well done.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Tim Nofsker
User
will look to
was
carry
moved
that
out of
momentum
your
into
channel.
next week at Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway. You heard him talk about a short season as well. I believe we documented this in the season opener, but yeah, only 8 regular season races for these drivers here this season before they get to the 6-race playoffs. I believe that the shortest regular season we had prior to that was 2 seasons ago, season 59, when we ran 9 regular season races. So yeah, not a whole lot of time for these drivers to be able to make moves and get those points, get those checkered flags to lock up playoff positions. But Tim Nofsker has done so here tonight as he joins Dante Ricky and Greg Palmer as a winner here in season 61. Point standings are in. Joe DeSpirito still holds the points lead. He opens up a pretty good gap now back to second place driver Bob Seminara. He's 19 points out. Mark Paglia moves up to third. Kelly Causey to fourth, and JT Mayhew falls to fifth, 28 points separating the top 5. Brian Schilling leapfrogs 10 spots up to 6th. Josh Metallic in 7th. Greg Palmer in 8th. Richard Martin 9th. And John Godfrey, Jerm Lewis are actually tied for the 10th position. Right now, Rodney Selwins would have the final position in on points for a playoff spot in 12th. Tim Nofsker in via his win 13th in the point standings. So right now we would have 13 drivers eligible for the playoffs, but there are still 5 regular season races left to go. Who will be winning those? We'll find out as soon as next week when we head to Burnt Screwdrivers Raceway under the lights for the second trip to that venue here in season 61. That'll be next Thursday night, green flag at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope to see you there. I've been Seth Cole. Thank you all for tuning into our coverage here tonight as you've been watching another broadcast courtesy of FRN, the Flatout Racing Network.
This broadcast is the copyrighted work of Flatout Racing Network and may not be rebroadcast, retranslated, or used in any form without the express written consent of Flatout Racing Network and iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations. Flatout Racing Network would like to